All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I have one of my students who works with me here tonight, Jess, and we are going to kind of partner up to share some information with you about graduate school. So I appreciate you sharing your majors and some of the questions you already have. That's great. We are going to kind of talk about, Jess is going to talk about her experience in kind of preparing and looking for graduate school. And then I can definitely answer the questions that you have put out there, Madison. Rain, any questions that you have moving forward, please ask those. You can chat the questions in the chat bar, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding graduate school. So just a quick introduction about myself. My name is Alicia Stuedemann. I'm a career advisor in career and professional development, and I work with students who are interested in going into the industry's education, government and public service, and social assistance. So I have pursued my master's degree already. I have a master's degree in educational leadership, and I got my master's degree from UW-Oshkosh. So I actually have an undergraduate degree in elementary education, and then I decided that I wanted to work in higher education, and so I went back and got my master's degree in elementary ed. And then Jess, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I can go. Just a second. Hi guys, my name is Jess. I am a senior at Oshkosh and I'm majoring in psychology and Spanish. My minor is in social justice. And obviously I haven't gone to graduate school, but I am planning to. And I'm in the process of starting my applications and everything like that. I took the GRE late September. And yeah, that's it.
Perfect. So let's answer Madison's questions first, just because I feel like she put those out there, and then we're going to go ahead and kind of get started with our presentation or any other questions that I had or that you might have. We wanted to treat this kind of like a conversation, so just really answering the questions that you have about graduate school or just kind of piquing your interest if that's something that you might want to pursue at some point. So does UW-Oshkosh have a GRE prep class or talk? We do through the Division of Online Continuing Education. There is a GRE prep class. I'm going to put the link to that in the chat so that you can go to that. Jess, did you take any sort of GRE prep, or what did you do in your experience?
I had there's like a program, online program kind of thing. It's called Magoosh, and I did that through Mcnair. They like paid for it for us. And they had like fake GRE exams, and they also helped us with like specific sections that they have in the GRE. I know that when you essentially when you purchase your GRE test, when you sign up for it and you pay for it, at least when I did, they give you the option of purchasing a practice GRE, which is free, but you still have to put it in your cart. So I purchased those, but I didn't do them because I was doing everything through Magoosh, but that's what I did.
Perfect. So yes, there are definitely options or opportunities online or through Oshkosh that you can use to prep for the GRE, which is kind of another thing to think about as you are going into a program. For me, I chose a higher education program in educational leadership that didn't require a GRE. Obviously, that is not the case for all programs, all master's programs. So that was something that I looked at when I was searching for a program, was if that required the GRE or not. And the program that I chose at Oshkosh Educational Leadership did not require the GRE for admittance. So for those of you thinking about graduate school, that could be one of the things that you kind of think about as you're preparing and doing some research school. The second question that we can talk about before Jess gets into some more of her experience is, how does one financially survive graduate school? So there are opportunities for you to apply for different types of financial aid packages in graduate school as well as your undergrad. You can do loans and things like that. The nice thing about going on to graduate school is you can defer your undergraduate loans and then be able to go into your master's program, so you don't have to pay off those undergraduate loans right away. And there are also scholarships and financial packages that you could possibly apply for depending upon the school. Also, depending on the program that you go into, there are assistantships, so graduate assistantships or programs that you might apply for when you enter the program, and then they'll pay you to be a part of that graduate assistantship. So then you'd be making money within your program and also getting experience. So really looking when you're doing some of that research about the financial aid package that might be presented to you, talking to the schools and doing that research, I think is important ahead of time, or even connecting with the financial aid office at the specific school that you're looking into is important. Obviously, we kind of outweigh some of those benefits. It obviously is something to think about financially. I know it was something that I had to prepare and plan for. And for me, I had to go on to get my master's degree to do the job that I wanted to do. And so the financial part of it, the end goal kind of outweighed that for me. And then really thinking about like how to plan for those loans and work with that financial aid office on how to pay for that upfront for credit. Did you want to add anything, Jess, about, the financial standpoint or your thoughts going into a program?
No, I don't really have anything to add. It's like a scary thing to think about for me right now. So I honestly haven't looked at scholarships or anything like that. I do know that they exist for graduate school, but I haven't looked at it personally.
Awesome. Yeah, so Madison, you can definitely reach out to the financial aid office at the institutions that you might be seeking, or talk to, you can always reach back out to me and we can look at some of those things as well as you're starting to apply for schools. I can sit down with students and kind of go over just your list of schools and talk through those pros and cons with you. That's something that you can do as well, but I would definitely connect with a financial aid office to ask those financial questions and kind of get your ducks in a row that way. Okay, were there any other questions up front for us? Otherwise, Jess, if you want to start sharing your presentation and we can walk through that.
Yeah, do you want me to just share my screen?
Yeah, so if you go to, actually, I can probably share it here. I'll share it and then you can talk through it and then just let me know when you want to advance the screen.
Okay, yeah, so this is my presentation. It's literally only like 2 slides. I think I can switch the slides as well.
Yep, you should be able to.
Can you see that? That just changed it. Okay, cool. So I am just going to talk about my experiences and my perspective as an undergrad student going into graduate school. So I did this slide just basically talking about the problems that I think I faced and I hear about constantly. So the first thing is that first generation students are less likely to finish their undergraduate studies. I personally felt that a lot, especially in the beginning of college, just kind of having like a lot of outlets to talk to about like how school was going. It's kind of hard to do that when your parents or family members haven't had the experiences that you're having. And then the second thing is that many first generation students do not consider graduate school as an option. I personally didn't really know graduate school was like a thing until maybe my sophomore year of college. I honestly went into undergrad thinking, okay, I'm gonna do 4 years, then I'm gonna be done, and then I'm just gonna work the rest of my life. But that's obviously not the case, and there's lots of opportunities out there. And then college students frequently find it difficult to ask for help. I feel this in a lot of areas, not just like looking into graduate school, but it is definitely hard to admit that you need help, and sometimes you don't know who to ask for help from. So that can be really hard as well. The things that helped me were talking to my friends, especially the people who are already thinking about graduate school when at the time I wasn't thinking about it. They really encouraged me to look into it more. Professors who saw potential in me or who see potential in me, and then also counselors. So at the time when I was first learning about graduate school and what I wanted to do after undergrad, I was also an undeclared major, so I had a lot of stress about that. I had Spanish declared, but I didn't have psych declared. So I was really, really stressed. I didn't know what to do. So I actually took advantage of the counseling center on campus, and I had a couple sessions with a counselor there. And they really talked through about like what I wanted to do and what my goals were. And that really helped me as well. And then the next thing is the Mcnair Scholars Program. I was part of that program this past summer. If you guys don't know what that is, I can also leave a link in the chat so you can maybe read about it if you're interested. But basically, it is a program that is dedicated to helping students go to graduate school. The main goal of it is to encourage people to get their PhDs and then go back to teaching to universities because they target putting more like diverse people into university staff. So that's their main goal, but obviously that's not what everyone ends up doing. So that was one thing that really helped me. But it's basically like you do research all summer. You do research projects with a mentor from school, from the university, and then at the end, you focus more on graduate school. We did like a lot of GRE prep. We talked about our CVs, our resumes, like how to reach out to people for recommendation letters and things like that. So that really, really helped me. And it also helped me narrow down what I wanted to do, which is what I want to talk about next, just more specifically, like what I did. And sorry, the format like changed the lettering in my slide. But first, I had to think about what I wanted to do beyond psychology. Psychology is one of those majors where it's pretty much like you have to go to graduate school. So I was thinking if I wanted to do more research-based or more practice-based. At first, I wanted to do research-based. I wanted to go for clinical psychology until I realized how crazy hard that is. So I was like, okay, no, I'm not going to do that. So I'm more of a people person. So I thought that I should definitely do something more practice-based. So I'm considering social work, school counseling, or school psychology. And then obviously the next step after that, after knowing what I wanted to do, was looking into the schools that provide those programs or that have those programs that make sense with what I want to do. So the universities that I'm currently considering are UW-Madison, UW-Milwaukee, Michigan Ann Arbor, and Marquette. So, and all of those, not all of them, for example, like Marquette, I don't believe they offer a graduate program for social work, but they do provide, or they do have a program for school counseling. So not all of them have everything that I want, but all of them have at least one or two that I'm looking at. So yeah, that's it. I'll put the link in the chat for Mcnair so that you guys can read about it if you're interested.
Awesome. Thank you, Jess. So I think Jess made a lot of good points as we think about what programs you might want to go into. So I like that she thought about her career first, and that's definitely something that in our office a career advisor could help you with, is really thinking about your end goal and what career that you want. Then thinking about what programs would be a good fit for you. So when I was looking at a graduate program, I could have either done a graduate program in more of a counseling program and then focused on higher education or educational leadership. And so those were kind of the programs that I thought about, and then made a list of pros and cons for each of those. And then looking at universities as well, so making a list of those universities. So I think that it will benefit you as you're thinking about graduate schools to really make that pros and cons list and think about some of these questions that we have brought up tonight. So, you know, what do you wish to achieve by attending graduate school? What is that end goal or that end career that you want to focus on? Thinking about the money and the time that you're going to be putting into that. And then thinking about, should you go to school full or part-time? So I know some students decide, okay, I'm going to also work while I'm going to school. Is that your option? Or are you going to go to school full-time? I definitely worked while I was going to school because that was something that I needed to do financially. And I also found a program that classes were at night so that I could do school or do work during the day. And then continuing that work. You can also maybe consider an online program. So as I think about the possibility of a PhD in the future, I'm definitely looking into those online or hybrid options because I am in a full-time position. So those are some of the things that you might want to consider as you are going into graduate school. Madison, I look like you have another question here, so let me just switch over. Okay. How many schools should one have in mind to apply to? The program I need is very specific, and I have only found a few schools that even offer what I'm looking for. The program I am pursuing clinical neuropsychology. I want to go to be a clinician, not a researcher. Perfect. That seems to be one of the biggest struggles I'm running into when I'm, So this is a great question, Madison, and I think that that's definitely part of it, is really researching those specific programs and what you need. And so it's going to depend. I think students are really applying between 2 and 5 schools probably. I only applied for one school, which is probably not the recommendation that I would give, but I knew that I really wanted to go to Oshkosh. I wanted to be in the Oshkosh area. My decision was made based on family being in this area, and I really wanted to be in the Fox Valley, and Oshkosh had that program that I wanted, so that was kind of my only option that I was considering at that time. Other friends or students that I've known who have done programs have applied for between 3 and 6 schools. So yes, obviously, if you're thinking about a very specific program, then you might only have a couple of schools that you're going to be looking into. Does that answer your question? And I don't think yes, awesome. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer for that, right? So some of your friends going out of graduate school might be applying for 6, and if you're applying for 2, that's okay because you're applying for something very specific. That's a really good question. Madison, Rain, did you have any other questions for us about graduate school, about anything that we kind of talked about tonight? I know this is a pretty quick session. Usually our Sunday night sessions only last about a half an hour, but I wanted to leave some time for us to answer any other questions that you might have. I know, Rain, you talked about going into, or you're majoring in elementary education. Did you have any other specific questions on your master's degree? I know I graduated with elementary education as well, and if you're going to stay in the teaching industry, usually they're asking that to become a principal or move on further into maybe like a specialty area. Usually you have to teach in a classroom for about 3 years before you move into that specialty program. I switched completely from the K-12 education system into higher education, so I actually only taught for 1 year in the classroom and then transitioned out of that. But to be a principal, they say 3 years, or a reading specialist, 3 years in a classroom, and then you can apply to some of those master's programs and do things outside of that classroom or to kind of further that education. Career planner, is there any other resources that are available to students looking to go into grad school or PhD programs? Okay, yep, Madison, that's a good question. So I have definitely done some research on some things that can help you. I actually have a pros and cons list that kind of goes through exactly what you might be thinking about looking from the start of your graduate school planning to the end, with different sections that you can fill in. So information on financial aid, different scholarship links that you can look at, thinking about what schools you're specifically picking, when to take the GRE, those types of things. So kind of like a timeline. So I have that resource that I can email you if that's something that you're interested in. And then kind of just talking through that. I can go over your resume if that's something that you're interested in. I can help you with or look at your personal statements if you have those, or any sort of things like that. as well. So those are some of the things and the resources that I have available to you, and then just some very specific graduate school websites that I can also share. So if that's something, Madison, you're interested in, if you just want to type your email address in the chat, I can copy that down and I can send you those virtual resources that I would have. Okay, awesome. I'm doing a bachelor's but wanted to see and learn more. Yep. Awesome. So doing that bachelor's in elementary education is great, and there are options for you moving into a master's program in an education realm, and really thinking about either principalship if you want to stay in education, or thinking about a reading specialist license, math coach. So there, it just kind of depends too on what your areas of interest are as you move through those programs. But some school districts will bump your pay based on having a master's program or not. It used to be that you would need to get additional credits in a school district to get paid more, and after Act 10, that kind of changed. So each school district is a little bit different as you're going to be going on to get a master's degree after your initial bachelor's degree. So you'd have to kind of see what the school district was that you're going to be teaching in. I think that we had one more student that joined us after the fact. So Curtis, we kind of went through some things with graduate school. Did you have any specific questions that you joined tonight to get answered? I just want to make sure that we can answer those questions for you if you had any. If you want to chat those in the chat bar, Curtis. And I'm going to write down Madison's email address. Did anyone have any other additional questions for us? Yeah, so I think that graduate school is something to definitely think about and consider. Going on and being a lifelong learner is definitely something to think about. And there are those, pros and cons to going on to graduate school. Like I said, not all ways to start graduate school, there are different ways. Some people go into their career field first and then start graduate school later. Some students go right into pursue their degree. I know Jess is going right into her graduate degree as she thinks about her career path that way. But I have known students who have gone back to school, obviously, or sometimes people say, okay, I really want to stay in that school mode, and so getting out of that school mode after I'm done with my bachelor's degree might be harder for me. So those are also things to think about. And then really just, researching those schools and moving on from there. Okay. Anything? We have like 2 minutes left. Does anyone have any other questions for us that we can answer tonight specifically about graduate school? Otherwise, Madison, I'm going to send you those resources. Rain, if you would like any additional information regarding specific education master's degrees, I can definitely email those to you as well. So if you'd like those resources, you can put your email in the chat too. And then Curtis, if you had any questions after you joined, please ask those. As that's kind of what Jess and I had for you tonight. So just really quick about her experience, and wanted to answer your questions. Where to go for a master's in history and what really to look for. Okay, that's an awesome question. So Curtis, do you have the ability to turn your microphone on at all? Okay, perfect, Rain. I was just wondering, Curtis, what are you thinking about for history? Okay, let's see. I'm going to make you a moderator so you can talk. Might be easier. I can click this. Not clicking. While I try and get this to work, Curtis, what are you thinking about in history specifically?